is an It Came From GenX video.
All right. Guys, we did have a couple losses from our generation, or made impacts on our generation for sure. Leo Gallagher, of course known as Gallagher, a comedian, passed away last Friday, age 76. So he was pretty huge in the world of comedy for several years in the 80s. I mean, in the late 70s he started, and through the 80s he had a lot of specials on HBO, very popular at the time. And of course, one thing that made him, he gained notoriety for, was his whole sledge-o-matic
Right. Yeah.
bit.
I'll never forget that.
So he would bring out a big sledgehammer thing that he made with like
Wow.
a stump or something like that, and he would smash produce and different things into the crowd, and he would always end it with a watermelon. It kind of became his trademark, as a smash of watermelon. Yeah, I tell you what, if you go back and watch very early Gallagher, and the crowd is not at all prepared for this, he brings out the produce, and people are kind of sitting there like,
yeah,
he's not really going to do this. Oh, no, oh, yeah, he definitely did it. And of course, people soon got wise and
brought the ponchos.
Ponchos and stuff. I saw him once live. I won tickets to this on the radio back in the late 90s at the Akron Civic Theater, front row tickets. So I had the poncho and the whole bit, and you definitely needed the poncho for sure. So very interesting. And one thing I'll say, I used to watch I watched all his specials back in the day. And that portion of the sledge-o-matic was actually a very short portion of his act. It was only like the last maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes of his act, where he would do solid comedy for well over an hour. Mm-hmm. And he was actually a smart comic. He was not at the level of a George Carlin, mind you. I think George Carlin is probably the smartest comedian that ever lived, or one of them anyway. But he had some very good humor. Nothing filthy, nothing like that, but just he had a whole bit, for example, where he was trying to teach kids the English language. You know, he said, like, C-O-M-B, comb, T-O-M-B, tome? No, tomb. And he kind of ran all these words together to where it was spelled similarly, but pronounced differently. Because he had a lot of good bits like that. So if you've never checked him out, go back and watch some of his old comedy bits. You know, the sledge-o-matic's a lot of fun, but like I said, definitely a smart comedian. So I was definitely a fan. So Keith, were you a Gallagher fan, sir? What do you think about him?
Without question, the first time I discovered him on TV, it's funny you mentioned the intelligence. I thought, I remember thinking, wow, this is my kind of guy, because I've always, even as a kid, I was kind of a thinker. And and everybody didn't get his humor. I remember my sister didn't understand some of the stuff he was saying, and I was just loving it. I never seen anybody with the sledge-o-matic beat the watermelons all over the crowd. You know, you had to have plastic. Everybody had to have plastic on the first 2 or 3 rows. So I was a fan from the first time I met him. As I got older, I kind of felt like I grew out of him, you know, because the show was just so, I guess, dated. But when I was younger, I loved Gallagher. I thought he was cool, but he was a character for the 70s and 80s for sure. The hair, the mustache, you know, and he kind of had this New York way about him, you know, the way he carried himself. But I love the guy.
Very good. Skinner, were you a Gallagher fan, sir?
Absolutely. My dad introduced me to him back years ago. He used to be on the HBO specials.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I agree with you. George Carlin's probably the most intelligent comic to ever live. And I put Gallagher in the conversation with him. You know, like you said, he was known for smashing the produce, but if you actually listen to the first 3/4 of his act, he was really, really good. And I'd love to go back and revisit some of his old shows.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I agree with all three of you about George Carlin, without question.
I got a photo with me and Peyton's mother with Gallagher at that special all those years ago, somewhere in a photo album that he was kind enough to take with it. He was a number one comedian for 15 years. He did 14 Showtime specials, by the way, and 3,500 live comedy shows. So definitely quite the career.
Oh.
Hey, Fish here from It Came From Gen X with Skinner and Keith. For every like and subscribe, you may win a free 1-year subscription to the AARP.